Hello, everybody. Welcome to What's What Live with myself, Eric, and my good friend David. Hello, David.
Hello. How are you
How's your
doing?
week been?
It's been good. It's been good, thank you.
Busy?
It's been busy and yeah, there's lots of stuff on. I've been doing some storyboarding work. I've been sorting various things actually.
Excellent.
There's been quite a few kind of odds and ends, and it's been a weird fragmented week since we last spoke, but in a good way.
Good. Cool.
There you go. That was vague.
That was very vague, but still, a little delve into your life, I suppose. Do you know what I did today? This will mean the
What
stuff
did you
to
do
some
today?
of our viewers, maybe not all of them, but I had to rummage for a box for a VGA cable, and it was brilliant. I loved it. When I found it, it was like, come on. Yeah, a VGA cable is one of those ones that was sort of that sort of shape they used to have for printers a long time ago. I needed
Right.
one for an old
Okay.
monitor, and yeah, it's always good when people have told you you should throw those away and you don't, and then you find something.
I
Ting,
do
another silly
actually. I
thing.
think
Ting.
everybody must have a massive box. Mine is like a proper. It fits one of those cubes behind me, just filled with wires, just in case I might need one of them. And I have no idea what's in half of
Yeah, I've
them,
got
to
a
be
flight
honest.
case with one.
Really.
Just hide them away. It looks nice because it's all square. We always talk about your background. Are you facing a different way this
We do.
time, or have the camera just flipped over?
I realised after last week's because somebody mentioned my background, and I saw that all the books were backwards, and so I think you should be flipped around the correct way now. Because if we look at, oh no, is it switched again?
No, I think it's
How's
the
it
right
looking
way.
for you?
The DEM
I think that's
is
the
the
right
right way
way.
round.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. That's interesting.
Sorry, Gizmo.
Interesting chat once again for American David. Is my camera the right way around? Gareth has asked
It's
or said AV phono cables, red, yellow, and white. Yeah, from the automatically makes me think of the PlayStation 1. 9 pin or
I
15 pin,
I
asked Sullivan.
I want to
15.
completely I want to completely upset the apple cart now because last week you named all of the people in the chat, all of the fans, what's whatters. Now I think, and I haven't said this to Eric, by the way. This is just completely I'm throwing this up. I think that's a bit of a faux pas because I think fans traditionally have to name themselves. I don't think it's up to the person to name the viewers or the group or anything like that. I don't think this is picked. So
I'm not.
I was
I'm not
wondering
sure we can call them fans just yet, David. People that turn up is about as high as I want to
yeah,
go.
people that can't change their internet tabs and are stuck on us.
If you join us on
So,
Behance, you have to use your real name as well, or your Behance name. There's no way. Rather interestingly. Right.
yeah, so,
Sorry.
yeah. So I'm just wondering, exactly people in the chat, if they decide to come up with their own like collective term for themselves, then I'd be quite curious as to what that would be.
They can come up with all they like. I'm always going to call them what waters. That's it. If Rufus Deutschler says what waters, that's it. It's set. Then I'm going to that. But yeah, have a
Shouldn't
play.
it be what's whatters?
What? Yeah. What
Yeah,
waters?
okay.
Yeah, you're right. Anywho, coming up in the next few weeks, you can see that we have already spoken to Tiggs Rice and Rufus Deutschler, just speaking about him. Today, we've got the lovely Lucy Sullivan with us. Next week, Jordan. Then it's Dave season with Dave Cross, David McClelland, and Dave Williams. And then we round off the first 8 with Jan Kabili. Oh, I'm really looking forward to this. I really am. Next week, Jordan. She's the community manager at Adobe Express. If you were with us last week when we were speaking to Rufus, you'll know that she is part of Rufus's team. We caught you out there, David, didn't I? I came back to you before you were ready. Sorry, I should have checked my other monitor. Right, but
Just having a drink.
this week's special guest is a London-based comic writer and artist who has gained acclaim for her debut graphic novel, Barking. Published in 2020 by Unbound, this captivating work draws from her own mental health crisis. She's collaborated with notable figures and publications including Fraser Campbell, John Reppion, Jordan Thomas, Peter Davison, and the brilliantly named Dan Watters. Alongside her artistic pursuits, she teaches BA illustration and animation and mentors graphic novelists through LD Comics. Look out for her new folk horror series, Shelter, which won the Best New Periodical Series Award from Broken Frontier. It's time to meet tonight's special guest. It's Lucy Sullivan! Hello, Lucy.
Hi.
Welcome along.
Thanks for the intro.
That's all right. It's you're a busy lady, that's for sure.
Yeah, it sounds it when you put it that way.
That's just a snippet of the stuff that we got from you. So, you like doing all kinds of stuff with all kinds of different people. It must be great to be able to collaborate with all these amazing artists and writers. How does that come about? Where did it come about that you suddenly find yourself working with somebody else?
Barking was my first comic major one. I'd made some zines, but otherwise I hadn't done anything long form, and it was crowdfunded. So Unbound don't do comics anymore, but they did. I think I was the last one they put out, and I had to crowdfund it, so I had to be out on social media trying to get backers and stuff, and I just met lots of the comics community through doing that. So Fraser was a backer, Jeff Lemire was a backer, a couple of other people, cool. Shelley Bond and stuff.
That's a bit of a coup, getting Jeff Lemire as a backer.
Oh, I nearly fell off my chair because I love his stuff. And then I realised he was following me on Twitter, and I did a cheeky DM to say thank you, and he offered me a Black Hammer pinup. So he's been such great support. I'm really, really lucky to have him.
Yeah, that's so nice. Because he wrote the dedication as well, didn't he?
You did the cover quote. Yeah, he's just a really wonderful human. I just really, really appreciate his support. So yeah, but it felt very cool to get it. So yeah.
So I've actually got a page. So everybody knows what we're talking about. For those that haven't been lucky enough to see it, this is, correct me if I'm wrong, Lucy, from Barking.
It is, yeah, that's from Barking. That's one of the early pages. So when I first started writing it, I wrote and drew two chapters, which are effectively like the introduction of Alex, who you see here, who's in the grip of a mental health crisis, and part of that is a actual black dog has manifested and is hunting her down, and at this point she's thinking about jumping off a bridge, essentially, which she doesn't do, but she's caught in the process by the police and sectioned. So I made that. I made that ages ago though, so it was like a separate bit, and then I made the rest of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sort of like trying to get a publisher, I made that sort of first 2-chapter book.
That's really cool. So did that? Sorry, Eric. Were you going to say something?
Well, just on the back of Lucy saying that this person is going to chuck themselves or thinking about taking their own life. And as I said in the introduction, it's from your own experience and mental health issues. Did you find that this was part of your recovery or part of your journey to recovery?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was quite a long way after. So I had a breakdown in my 20s. My dad died really suddenly, and I was living in New Zealand. My mum's from there, and I was living out there. So I had to fly home, which took a long time. It was just an incredibly traumatic experience. And it was about 18 months after he died, I just had the most incredibly bad night of my life. I found out I was really angry. I was picking fights with men in pubs. I was just, I was a completely different person. I was in a really, really bad place, and had the worst night of my life. And a friend of mine who was a bouncer, I grew up in a pub, and he was one of our bouncers. I'd grown up with him like a big brother, and he'd been in jail 3 times for GBH, and he told me I had an anger problem. So I took that seriously. You know, and you're like, okay, yes, like you've been to jail for your anger, so if you think I've got a problem, I'm going to get help because I don't want to go to jail. So this is based on what I went through, but it's mixed with research because I wasn't sectioned. I was lucky enough. I went and got help privately. I went to a psychotherapist, but I had friends who were sectioned. My grandmother was sectioned. So a lot of mental health problems in my family, and sort of what my friends went through is combined with how I would have reacted had I been sectioned, and then I've mixed that in with research about mental health hospitals at the time. So it's sort of a critique on how we treat people when they have a breakdown, but the way the character reacts is either something I've been through or how I think it would have gone had I been put in that situation at the time. So yeah, it's sort of it's not quite an auto bio. It's in another. I wanted to make it a narrative because I didn't think if I did a straight auto bio, it would be very engaging. No one knows you, right? So I wanted to make it a narrative and make it kind of a ghost story and make it frightening because it's a really terrifying experience.
So
So
were you already, when your dad passed away, were you already a graphic artist? Were you already a comic artist?
No. I worked in pubs and bars, so I was a waitress and bartender. I was making like cocktails for snowboarders and skiers in New Zealand. Yeah, and I grew up in a pub, so I always thought that that's what I would do with my life. I thought I'd just pour drinks and run bars and stuff. I never thought it would happen. So part of my recovery actually was going to art school and getting my degree and finding out how much actually drawing and writing helps me with what turned out to be a lifelong condition of depression and anxiety, but it had it got worse and got into a breakdown sort of stage at that point. So I think I always had it. It just peaked, as it were.
I've got to say, when I read Barking, I was amazed. I think that's the most accurate portrayal of depression that I've seen in like even in like a written form, in film, and anything. When I was reading through it, it was so like I think I kind of messaged you very quickly after I'd read it, and I was just
yeah. I mean, it's
I was just like,
very
oh my god.
it's very intense. It's I sort of describe it a lot as an exorcism because I did sort of just go, oh, here's my feelings and my experience, and then I drew it very automatically. It was written very automatically, so it wasn't massively scripted. It was very raw, and I think it's better for it. But I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say that actually. I think it does have that kind of nightmarish, slightly abstract quality to it, which is kind of like it's because I went through something a few years back, and I felt very much like that. It's like not everything was making sense. People were saying things, and I couldn't quite like connect to it. And yeah, I often felt excuse me, quite detached.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's even the small I mean, your artistic style was so good for it. Like I loved just like the sorry, I'm going to describe something on a podcast. We're not actually showing it, which is kind of tricky. But the way you just like scribbled out people's heads, like when they were completely taken over, that I don't know. I really reacted viscerally to it. It was really good.
I might have a scene here actually for that because I had a bit. See if I can find it quickly because I made sure I had a book because I've had it, but it's got this. I think it might be this scene that you're talking about where they're.
That's it. Yeah, that's the one.
Everyone's in scribbles.
It's
and I guess
so good.
My thought process was I was trying to explain visually how it feels when you can't really hear other people because your internal voice is so loud, and that kind of feeling is so intense that you're just it's really hard to kind of take notice of anything. So it was I found I came up with much better devices when I just doodled to try and explain what that felt like, and you can't do it in any form other than comics, I think, but it's not an easy comic to read. It demands a lot of the reader.
Yeah, I mean it was challenging, but I mean I absolutely I'm sorry, I'm just going to gush. I don't care. No, I absolutely loved it. It was so. It really felt like you made the most of comics as a medium. To me, it really was. It was kind of the perfect. This is going to sound really bad. It was like the perfect distillation of comics as a medium, and like the way that the text was there and the images, and Oh no, sorry, I just loved it.
Thank you. I mean, every page is individually designed, so it's like nothing is the same. Every spread is like an individually designed spread to fit that scene and what's happening. So then nothing looks the same. And it was a really amazing process to go through, to just sort of, like, I read comics my whole life, and it's sort of like 35 years worth of comics reading went into suddenly like, what if I did this and what if I did that, and does that work if you print it out? And so a lot of experimentation, and I don't know that all of it was successful, but it was really great to just see what you could do if you just throw the rule book out. Like, there's no 9-panel grids or any of
What was
that.
interesting is I find it staggering that that was like your first like proper comic out of the gate, because it does have
Yeah.
that confidence of throwing out a lot of the rules that we have, and
Yeah,
it's normally I would have assumed that somebody had got done a number of comics before they thought, okay, now I've got this, I'm gonna start to break it because I know how far it can go.
yeah. So I animated at uni. I did hand drawn animation,
Yeah.
and I did a bit of that with that as well. So like, oh right, that's the rules. Never mind that. What happens if, And what I love about animation is you're stuck with that kind of rectangle, and you've got to find a way to play with it and make it exciting. But then when you go into comics, it's like all about pagination and where you can lead people to, and that page
Yes.
turn, and and then suddenly like, what if I don't have a panel? What does that say? What space does it give? And I got really obsessed as an artist at uni with negative space, and I think because it's black and white, I could really use the white to accentuate what was happening with the black. And yeah, it was a lot of exploration with it, but you've got to understand how many drafts went into that. I mean, it was like from start idea to finish, it was probably like a decade's worth of work, so I think I probably made 12 comics in making that one comic, if you get my meaning, because I made it so many
Yes,
times.
absolutely. Yeah.
The opening scene I've got about 5 different versions of that I made, and like I'd show to people to go, does it make sense?
Oh wow, cool.
And I had a friend who's a
Yeah.
film director who suggested to put in the timestamps and stuff, and that really kind of changed the beat of it. And so it went through so many iterations that I think I did effectively make all those comics before making that. It's just they were the one story. It was a really long winded process.
That's so cool.
So can I ask, I'm going to say my first stupid question, but it's not. As somebody from outside of this field, what's the difference between a graphic novel and a comic?
I mean,
stapling.
It's just nothing, I think they are all comics, personally. My publisher described it as a graphic novel because they were a literary publisher and they don't seem to like the word comic. I think they're a bit sort of down on it, which is ridiculous. I would say it's a graphic novel if it's a single story that's sort of like maybe 60 plus pages. It's sort of heading into that, but they are all comics, essentially, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree. I think typically it's not because some people get a bit funny about the word comics. I don't at all.
No.
I think for me, it's literally the distinction is just the binding for me.
Yeah.
It's like if it's got a staple, it's a comic, and then if it's got a spine, it's a graphic novel.
Yeah,
It's
and if
just
it's
literally
one
that.
story, or if it's, say, like an anthology that's got lots of stories from different people, then that's about it. But normally it's a literary publisher that feels the need to call it a graphic novel. Otherwise, it's a comic book.
Interesting. Thank you. So where can we get Barking and your other publications?
So Barking is all but sold out. It sold out almost within a year of coming out, and I left my publisher, so I didn't have any more done. I had quite a fractious time getting it to print, and we didn't get on very well. So I got my rights back and left. I've got the last few editions, and I'm keeping them for in-person events this year. So I'm going to be at South London Zine Fair on Sunday in West Norwood, if anyone's in London. And I'll be doing the Lakes Comic Art Festival in October and Thought Bubble in November. Hopefully still have some by November, but I'm not convinced, but and then
Well,
exclusive.
if you do one of those as mine, because I missed barking the first time
Well, it
round. I was like,
depends. So it depends, David, which edition you want. Because in the exclusive news is I've got a new publisher, and I'm going to have a new edition from next March. It's going to be going out with Avery Hill, which I'm absolutely
awesome.
thrilled about. I've got so many of their books; it's ridiculous. And
I was gonna say Avery Hill are fantastic.
I'm so excited.
What I really like about them is, and I've noticed this, as well as the fact I own a lot of their books, a lot of the books that they produce. So the content's really kind of up my street. Is that they put some effort in for their the artists, which a lot of publishers do not.
I had this idea about what working with a publisher was going to be like, and it wasn't like that with Unbound. And they sacked my editor when I went to print, so I had to deal with like the CEO who knew nothing about comics. It was a complete disaster. They misprinted the book. I had to get it reprinted. It was just hellish. And I just thought, God, if this is publishing, I'm just going to self-publish. And then I really wanted to get this out to the States. It was never launched in America, and I'd get people individually buying it off me and shops approaching me, and I couldn't get it distributed. And I'd love to try and get some translations. So I emailed Avery Hill, and I was just like, is there any chance you'd be interested? And they said, yeah. So David White was one of my backers at Unbound. And then I saw Ricky at a con recently, a really small one, and he bought Shelter off me. Well, he tried to buy it. I gave it to him because he's Ricky from Avery Hill. Just have it, you know. Yeah, so they were really happy to take it, and we're going to launch in the States and here. And I've done a new cover, and it's just deeply exciting. So, and they're just so wonderful.
Congratulations!
They're great.
That's really good.
Thank you. They're so great to work with, and I really do recommend buying their books because they actually do really care about their creators, and it's such a pleasure to work with people. You're like, oh my god, you like comics and you like creators. Amazing, thank you.
So for us people,
I need to get in contact with them soon.
Yeah, they're wonderful.
For us people outside the industry, Lucy, can you explain a bit more? And this is coming from the chat room as well.
Sure.
A little bit more about how you got your rights back. So what's the procedure here?
So every contract is different. If you're writing and drawing comics, I recommend you join, and you're in the UK. I don't know about overseas, I'm afraid, but if you're in the UK, I recommend you join the Society of Authors, who will, once you've joined, they have a comics creators network, and I think you get 20% off the membership if you use the code comics20. If I'm wrong about that, contact me and I will find you the discount because it is 20% off. Anyway, they will look through any contract for free and advise you on it. So you get a lawyer who's a specialist in contract law. It's amazing. So when I got my barking contract with Unbound, because it was a crowdfunding publisher, it meant that I had to raise all the funds. So I had to raise £13,000 as a complete nobody. It was a huge task. It isn't Kickstarter, so there isn't a limit. So you have as long as you need. But it was a lot of money to raise. So I got the contract, sent it to Society of Authors, and they just went through it point by point by point. And it's like, they didn't like Unbound at all anyway. They were like trying to advise me not to go with them. I should have listened. I didn't. But I knew the editor, and she was great, Lizzie Kay, who they then made redundant, but she was brilliant. And so they advised me to get my first refusal taken out and to make sure that I had a right to get my rights back. So it's rights reversal at the end of the first print run. So what I had to do was sell the print run, and then I could go to them and have a conversation about whether we print more books or I get my rights back. What I'd snuck in was I'd taken out their right to adaptions to other media. I refused to let them have that, and Lizzie let me get away with that. And I'm not sure she was supposed to, but so they had nothing. They just had the right to print the book, and that was it. So it was quite easy to leave. So do not ever give anyone anything about the rights to your character or adaptation, because that's your money, you know. And actually Barking is currently in the process of being adapted, so it's all between me and that person. It's got nothing to do with the publishers, and that's how it should be. It's your creation. Yeah, you've got to. I got absolutely stung as an animator, where we created a cast of characters, we created a whole world. The producer got us to sign a contract, and then they sold the rights to a record label for 150 grand, and I saw nothing of it, like nothing. And I did 6 months work for, I think, a grand and a half or something. So after that was straight out of uni. I never ever signed a contract again without getting it legally put through. If you can't afford to join Society of Authors, there's an amazing website called, God, I'm going to have to find a link to it. I think might be they, actually. I think they're non-binary. It's a lawyer in the States, Kate. I'm going to have to find a link and send it. And it's called, I'm going to have to find it. My brain's gone. I will find it and I will send it, and you'll have to just send it to everyone, or I'll look while talking.
Wherever you're watching this, look around and you'll be able to find it.
Called Kate.
Don't panic. It's all right. We can always put it on retrospectively.
But it's free advice. Oh, it's called Work for Hire. Work for Hire is the website. Go to that, because it's Work for Hire is a comics contract that you get, which is just abysmal. And I used that to check through a contract from TKO that was not good, and I did not sign in the end because it's not good. So know your rights and bad contracts. Them. Yeah, you've got to be really picky, because it's so easy when you get the thrill of a publisher being interested, and it's so easy to just sign and not be picky, but you have to be, because everything's negotiable, and they are going to go for as much as they can get straight off the bat, and you have to be canny enough to just say, no, I just want to get this check through, and they'll wait. You know, if they like your work, they'll wait, and if they don't, then maybe they're not the right people to be with, you know.
You said it was being adapted. Adapted for what and where?
Well, so it's still not announced.
Is it a secret, Lucy? Sorry.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It's a feature film. It's been written. There's a writer's strike, but it's an LA-based writer, and they're looking for financing. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I've read the script. It's really amazing. So I hope it goes somewhere.
Oh wow,
that's very cool. So
it's
when it
really
comes to the Oscars in a couple of years' time,
yeah, right.
Just remember, we gave you your big break, Lucy.
Thanks. I don't think it will hit those heights, you know. I think, you know, maybe Netflix if we're lucky.
I'd be happy. I'd go keep the Oscar. I'll have Netflix. Thanks very much. I'll be all over that. Yeah, that's amazing. And the chat's filling up with great stuff, and that's cool. And congratulations. And absolutely, that's really good. And that's got to be some sort of affirmation for you of your work when somebody wants to take it further. So then we're split, right? Because we've just been talking about how you want to keep creative control, but now you're saying, okay, script writers, off you go. Here's my work. Here's my baby. That's got to be difficult for you.
Yeah, well, I sort of went down. Initially, I said I'd do the Alan Moore thing and just say I don't want anything to do with it. It's yours, and I just sort of take the money and run. But I had a video call with the writer and his manager a few times, and we chatted, and we got on so well that I said, oh, hey. And really my input has just been talking about the influences and sharing like what music I think goes into it and what TV shows. And and he's a lot younger than me, and he grew up in LA. We couldn't be more different, and yet we have very, very similar taste. So it was remarkable for me to reference something like The Singing Detective from the 1980s, which is a very obscure TV show. And he would go, oh, look, and he'd hold up the DVD and like, oh my God, you know, for a young man who can embody my brain in an incredible way. So and it's a really beautiful sort of extension, and sort of allowed him to go with it. And I said, I'm not precious, you know, I've got the book I intended it to be. So, you know, you run with it and see what you want to do. And actually he's kept pretty faithful and just developed it in a way that's so empathetic that it fits in beautifully. So yeah, I'm really, really pleased with how it comes. So I hope it goes somewhere. It has to get financing yet, and who knows, LA's like shut down because of the writers' strike.
Yes,
So
yeah.
there's nothing happening at the moment, but it was already written, so we'll have to see what comes. But it's very flattering, but it won't really impact me if it doesn't, because I'll still just keep making my comics, So it's more his
Absolutely.
mine, So yeah.
That's brilliant.
Although I hope they let me have a say in some of the casting. That would be exciting,
That would be so cool.
Yeah, I doubt I'll get it, but you never know.
Well, I remember Mike Mignola, creator of Hellboy. He had a kind of similar attitude because he was involved to an extent. Like he in the Art of books, you can see he gave his kind of influence on the character designs and stuff. And then he came up with the point of view that like the films existing didn't take away anything from the fact that his books exist. And
Exactly.
and that's his version. And so it's like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what sorry, I got distracted. Your artwork was scrolling, and
Yeah, that's my new one. That's Shelter. So
that's
this is
Shelter.
my folk horror. This is the
Do you know
first
what?
one, Early Doors.
Shelter was a slight swerve for me because
Sorry.
for some reason I had it in my head. I didn't have the folk horror aspects to it,
Ah,
and so
okay.
I genuinely I had it. I don't know
So
why.
it's
I
just like a
completely
kitchen sink drama that gets very
yeah.
weird.
I thought it was based on actual accounts of people, and I kind of like I was getting
Oh.
back, and I started to read through. And I was like, oh wait, hang
I mean,
somebody's confessing a lot if this is true.
I grew up with some witches, definitely, but I don't know about what happens, whether that happened, but we'll see. you know, Someone will have to check around the Westway for parts. But no,
No,
I mean
it's
it's sort of loosely inspired by the part of London that my dad grew up in, so West London. He came back from he met my mum in Australia. She's a New Zealander, and they came back to West London in 1969. And sort of just from what my mum says about kind of being in London at that time, and that part of London was very kind of bohemian and really mad. And they ran a live music pub, a rock pub. So we had this really kind of crazy cast of people. We had sort of like antiques dealers and musicians and local criminals and stuff drinking in the pub alongside just normal people and people who worked in excuse me, the markets and stuff. So I just sort of wanted to bring that all together, but then combine it with Irish mythology, because I'm really slightly obsessed with Celtic mythology, and try and do my kind of version of sort of Buffy and Hellboy and those things where you can take in a story and then weave mythology into it. So yeah, it's all kind of diving into that and playing with it. The next one is actually that's just some images without the text from I didn't realise I hadn't give you the text, but it's mine. It's John Reppion's, who wrote a story for Scrawl magazine, which is sort of like an anthology comics magazine. He wrote this great story about a teenage Scally and the cats that he upsets. It's a really great story. Yeah. But that's just a sort of mixture you're looking at now is just a mixture of kind of different commissions I've done, pin-ups for Black Hammer, Department of Truth. Oh right, sorry.
so we can see it there.
You can't
Sorry,
see it.
yeah.
Sorry, I'm like talking about it and it's on screen and you can't even see it. So apologies.
There we go.
That's what I was
Everybody
talking
can see it
about.
now. There we go.
So I did, after making Barking, I sort of wanted to take some time out of my own head. So I did a bunch of commissions. I worked with loads of different writers or did some covers or pin-ups, and it was really lovely to just be given a character and to figure out how you wanted to express that character or what you wanted to focus on. And look, there's even the dreaded Tales from the Quarantine in there. The panel jam you'll never see.
Oh, do you know what?
Yeah,
that was
you may
with
as well see that
Fraser,
because
wasn't
they're
it?
never going to print it, Yeah, Fraser Brown. So I got asked to do the panel jam as well, which is this story of the kid, and I'm not allowed to put that out, I don't think. But I'm so done with this guy. He's did this anthology and disappeared like 30 grand's worth of charity funds. So
yeah, 37.
yeah, right. So I don't think he
Yeah.
gets the right to tell me what I can and can't show anymore.
No. No, he was a real piece of work.
Yeah,
No,
still is.
but the story you made was really good. I
That was
trying
with
to think.
Fraser.
Yeah,
Yeah, so Fraser, who
the
wrote
good Fraser.
Index. Good Fraser
Yes,
Campbell from
good
Scotland,
Fraser
who
Campbell.
does lots
But
of indie
so
comics.
I joke to him, like, literally whenever I think about him, my brain goes the good Fraser, because he said that
It's
once,
the good Fraser.
and it's like, I think of Fraser Campbell. That's the good one.
He is the good one, and he's a properly good one as well. And I loved working with him on Index, and we've been pals. He backed Barking, and we've been pals for ages. I bought a bunch of his Kickstart stuff, so House of Sweets with Ian Laurie and a couple of other things.
Mm.
And he put a call out for an artist for Index, which I think you had up earlier, which is sort of a lo-fi sci-fi horror. He put it out on Twitter. Just I need an artist because my artist couldn't make it. It was originally Anna Redman, who's doing stuff for like 2000 AD and things now.
Okay, yeah.
But she was finishing up her degree and just too much work. And I just finished Barking.
Was Index the full script already, and then you just kind of brought your style to it? Or
Yeah. So this is Index. If you go to you can go to the pictures or the digital PDF. That's without the lettering, but that's just my artwork. It was fully scripted, and then I put I just sort of was reading the script, coming up with some layouts, and I had a little doodle on Procreate. And I sort of sent it to Fraser, and I was like, "Oh, what do you think about this kind of style on Procreate?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna put it on Twitter, see what people think." And they put it on Twitter. We got nominated as the most exciting comic to come out, and everyone's like, "Yeah, you got to do it like that." I was like, "Okay, I guess I'm doing a Procreate comic then." And it was lockdown, so I drew it all. It worked out quite well to do it. I did it in like my partner has a shed at the end of the garden, and knocked down when we were like homeschooling, and I hid in there with an iPad and drew this. I think I had like Buffy on. And drew this on the iPad.
So I just love that randomly. Oh, let's put it out on Twitter and see what you think. You get that response.
I would never do that, and it got this huge response, and everyone was like, "Whoa, you have to do it this way." And you're like, "Oh, okay." In fact, it was. You can see in that image the guy with the blue thing. It was basically that illustration. So the guy in the sort of fedora hat. It was that, and I did a quick sketch of him. I just said it's Fraser, and that was it. We were getting like nominated for awards. Just like, oh gosh, what have you done, Fraser? So yeah, he's the good Fraser, but he's also a bit of a pain for doing that.
I need to send him some work so he can just share something. That's amazing.
Yeah, I've learnt now. I'm not sending him stuff anymore.
So I want to ask now. Actually, sorry. Sorry, David.
I was just going to go to the couple of chat. Sorry, no, you go.
I want to talk about your process, because I know that you said that you've got a couple of books there that your sketchbooks and stuff like that, and I think this is going to be quite interesting, not only to me but also to the Waters. So tell us about your process. Where does it start?
So it starts with everyone's different, right? So I never made a comic in the same way yet, which has been, they're roughly the same way, but it will start with research more than anything. So I will read a lot of comics, read a lot of books, listen to a lot of books, and watch a lot of films. This time I had an Arts Council grant, and I went to the British Library. I got 12 days of just solid research, which was amazing. And the British Library is free to join if you live in the UK. I'm really sorry if you don't, because it is amazing. Come here, live here, join the British Library. It'll be worth it, because they have everything. So I could go in, and because this book is the next one in the Shelter series, it's called Mother's Ruin, and it's all set in 1970. I could go and get specific 1970s newspapers. I could get books on Isle of Man folklore, Irish folklore, or even I got a voodoo book that came with a sewn poppet attached, and the librarians were just in love with me after that. They were like, "What are you getting next?" I don't know. But so it starts with that. So this is just like, you won't even be able to see it, but it's just like reams and reams of research and notes. You have to write in a pencil in the British Library. You're not allowed to, you can take devices in, but this is just like all the stuff I've written about it. Then I'll take that into a script form. So if I can do a wee screen share, I've started using a new, let's see what it will let me do. Window. Oh, I've got to bring it up. Hold on, I haven't brought it up yet. See if it will let me do it now. So this is the new script. Can you see that?
We can in just 1 second. I can see it, so bear with me. David, you keep getting a little bit of a scratchy noise on your microphone. Weirdly, if I turn you down and turn you back up again, it works again. But if maybe your battery's getting low or something like that. Don't know.
So this is Scrivener, which is a writing app. I don't know if you can see that.
We're
I
nearly
think
there.
I've still got.
We're nearly there, Lucy. Bear with.
Oh, sorry.
There we go. We've got it.
There you go. There you go. So this is Scrivener. So what I can do on this is you can see on one side that's the scripting side where it says page 14. On the other side is my note taking. So I'll start off with that where I'll write a basic kind of scenes and start trying to put them into an order, and then I'll take each one and then start writing a script. And then at the same time, I'm doing this where I'm I don't know if you can see that. I am thumbnailing the page layouts that go with the script.
Okay.
So I'm doing it concurrently. So essentially,
That's
I
a
would like.
really good idea.
It's sort of working. I've never done it like this before. I write the dialogue and then I think, oh, what would that look like? What does that person wear? And then I have to go to the book and start sketching it out, or I have to start researching. Because the other thing I do, so if I take off this screen, the other thing I do is I start sketching. So these are sketches I've been doing in dip pen and ink to research films. So I've been watching lots of British Parthay films on YouTube from 1970s. So I'll just go on. I found this amazing bin man from West London who I'm like, oh, that's one of my characters for sure. He's got the cheek I'm looking for. This is a woman I saw that I want to make one of my cleaners. I've got a troupe of cleaning ladies in this book. So yeah, I'll just start sketching through. These are just done directly from the film. And then sorry.
Yeah, we need to see this.
It's so hard to do this backwards. So that's all stuff from Frankfurt Station and where part of the set. It's all around the Westway in West London. So I've managed to find footage of that. I'm trying to get that straight for you. And yeah, it just helps me kind of get into the mood. I've got a kid in it, so it's just sort of looking at footage of so hard to do backwards of 1970s kind of kids playing in playgrounds. I mean, it's all on British Parthay films, so it's amazing footage from the time, and it really helps you get. I was born in 1976, so I'm a little bit younger, and obviously I don't remember that time at all.
No.
Like, remember the 80s, but not really the 70s in any way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a kind of combination of all those things together, and then once I've got my thumbnails, I take them into Photoshop. So that's probably more your bag, Eric. The photo.
Very
Although I
much.
probably
Finally,
use it really
something I know
badly.
something about.
Yeah, I can show you some of the pages I brought up in Photoshop to give you an idea of how that then.
I'd love to geek out on your Photoshop.
Yeah,
it's
you
going to
put me
look
to work
really
with my nerding skills here, aren't you? So that's okay.
excellent.
We're going to make you
All
smart.
right, well,
so we can bring your screen
let me see if I can do a share again, and let me see if it will let me do the Photoshop. So
you're getting some really lovely compliments, by the way, in the chat.
Oh, thank you.
Angus has said they're blooming lovely. Gareth mentioned about how expressive they are. The use of the word blooming has now turned into a discussion about bloomers, but
I like the word blooming. It's a good one. I will try and fit it in the comic somewhere because that's a classic. So here I've got the artwork layers as well, but what I wanted you to see, because I've got all the roughs under there, and then you can start to see how rough my roughs are.
So are these coming in from?
Comparison.
You said you use Procreate. Are these coming in from Procreate?
Actually, no, they're drawn in Photoshop. I sort of like Procreate, but I don't. It's too neat. And I'm really used to, so I have, can't see, but I have the old style drawing Wacom tablet. So I quite like that. I've got really used to as an animator, you're just drawing directly, looking at the screen, drawing on the tablet. I find Procreate a little bit disorientating because I'm on the screen. I find that a bit weird. So I would do my roughs in Procreate, in Photoshop, and then I will print them out. And over here, I have a light box, and then I will draw them directly on there.
Okay.
So what I do have, which you can see here, actually, that's my light box, and in here is the original artwork. So.
I've realised now we need another screen where we can see just the people. And what is this screen?
Sorry.
Here we go. Now I'm making you big again. You're all right.
So I'm gonna get, so that's the original kind of artwork. So watercolor underneath and carbon typewriter sheets over the top. Now that's gonna sound, it's a ridiculous way to make a comic. It really is. So they look basically a black piece of paper. So when I put them, even though it's a light box, when I put it on, it's still a black piece of paper that I can barely see anything through. You can sort of see the artwork, but what it means, so like it's like this, it's literally a black piece of paper, and it's quite thin, but it's not the easiest. And then I use kind of like dip pens and these kind of things to draw the line. But you can sort of see here the artwork going in, and that's what I'm starting to figure out. I also hand draw all the panels, and then what I end up with is something that looks like this. So this is once it's lettered. I hand drew all the lettering. Oh, I'm going on your screen instead of mine. I hand drew all
you hand
all the bubbles. Sorry, I keep going.
So you lettered the entire thing by hand?
Yeah. It's a really, I'm not kidding. There's like easy way. So this is a hand-drawn font that is typable. I got someone to make it for me. Dan Berry made me the type, and it's what's embarking. But all the bubbles are hand-drawn, and all the panels. So I think if I go, you can see all the text there. Where are my bubbles? They're down here. So I do things like I have an old paper texture layer.
Do you bring in the text first and then?
I did the text on the roughs to make sure I could fit it in, because that's another edit on the script, and it makes you go, can I say that in less words and make those letters bigger? And often, I think my characters speak in quite a staccato way, so I can fit it all in. But you can see the balloons there, they're all kind of hand drawn over the top, and I've got an old sketchbook where I scan in the paper so that I get that really lovely paper texture to it, so it's not a flat color. So
Lucy,
there are
is this not being printed?
beyond. It has been printed.
So,
no, what do you mean?
You're putting paper texture on something that's going to be printed onto paper and have a real paper texture.
Yeah. But it's going to be modern paper, and I wanted it to have old paper texture. So I've got this beautiful old
that's good.
I don't know where it is, where it's all yellowed at the edges, and I know it's ridiculous and it's such a silly thing to do.
No,
when I put in,
that's part of the overall look.
And it did work, which was the most exciting part. That when I did print Shelter, it has, you can see it's got this kind of like oldie paper look. I don't know if that makes sense there, but it's quite,
it works really nice.
Quite moody and dark, and it's a very tactile book.
Very clever.
Comic Printing UK, if you're ever going to print a comic, are the people to go to, because Rich is so sympathetic about artists and what they're looking to do, and he'll really help you find that kind of look and deal with your crazy.
He's great because he has his whole character on Twitter for people who don't know him. Rich is Comic Printing UK. He acts like he's the scariest person.
Yeah, and he's the loveliest.
No, he's great. He's really good.
He's the loveliest if you're good at getting your bleeds done, which I try to, but then I do go across the middle of the panel and through the pages, and he lets me get away with it. So
okay, there's going to be a few people in the chat room and watching this, hopefully, that may need to understand a bit more about bleeds and
Right, yeah, sure. I can show you. So if we go back to the screen, so bleed is basically you have your gutter and bleed. Let's go back to Photoshop and I'll show you on another one. I might have a barking page up here you can have a look at. Oh, I put one of my Jeff Lemire ones. So this is the roughs for the one I did. Jeff Lemire hired me to write a short comic for his Substack. I'm hoping it will get printed one day, but I'm not sure. Now, can you see all my crazy blue lines? That is my bleeds and gutters. So you're gutted, like you're just gonna lose entirely. Have I got it on the top? Here we go. This is my Comic Printing UK bleeds, which tells me exactly where I cannot go. Let me see if it will show you. This file is massive because it was potentially going to be printed by Dark Horse and it has to be a minimum of 600 DPI. So
yeah,
my computer hates it. And there you go. So you can see, if we zoom in, what Rich helpfully does is he tells you that, you know, the black you're not going to have. I've added an extra 3 mil because I always take it too far and I have to make sure that I leave plenty of room. And then the blue, anything that hits the blue has to go into the black, and anything beyond that you're not going to see. So you've got to always make your artwork go over the edges if it's going to do that, or you have to keep it well within the blue, which is this next line here, which is your safe area. I think if in doubt, work to the safe area. I never do that. So they hate me. But what I do make sure I did on this because it was for Jeff and I didn't want to be a pain. So you can see I thoroughly respected, apart from this little bit down the bottom here where I wanted it to go over because the whole point
you couldn't resist.
Whacked on the back of the head. You know, well, she's been smacked with a rolling pin. I think it had
But
to
that's
have
fair. Yeah, that deserves to break the panels. Absolutely.
Yeah, in fact, my special effects have been turned off on this, but let's see if they come through. There should be a nice thwack and a oof. So I really love doing the sound effects. The best part.
Do you know what? That's something that I've found in about the last year. I've suddenly developed a love of wanting to do my own sound effects.
It's the
For a long
best
time,
bit. When someone says, "Do you want a letter?" and you're like, "Only if I can do the sound effect." Sitting around going, "What is the sound of someone hitting you on the back of the head? It's a thwack or a thwack."
Yes.
Or you know, you're just like.
So is that not something that you would normally do? Is that? I see.
Not
again.
everyone does. So
Okay.
especially well, it depends. So for someone like me who's a cartoonist, I do all of it. So I write, I draw, I letter, I colour, I do the whole shebang. But in a traditional kind of like DC or Marvel or Dark Horse comics, you tend to have teams. So you'll have the writer, you'll have the artist who's normally just the ink or penciler, then you'll have a colorist, sometimes you'll have an inker, and then you'll have the letterer on top of that. So it can be like a huge team. And I've only done it with another letterer, which was Hassan, who lettered Indexed, and he did an amazing job
He's
on
really
it.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, he wins Eisners all the time for it, which is like the Oscars of comics.
So what
because
makes a good letterer? Sorry.
It's so sympathetic to the artwork. If you go back and go onto the Index screen, and we can hopefully show people, if you go to the Index digital PDF. So if you go back, sorry, Eric.
That's fine.
Most people thought that I lettered it, and I don't think there's a greater compliment. So you need to go back a folder into Indexed, and then it says digital PDF.
So for the people watching at home, Lucy can obviously see what I'm doing.
I can see.
Bear with while we.
It's a bit of Dropbox organisation going on. So and actually the cover logo was even done by someone else. So I drew it, but that stamp was made by Alistair Wood, who's an artist on Grand Theft Auto. He works for Rockstar Games.
That's very cool.
As a favour, he did that. Yeah, he's an amazing artist. Just incredible. So you can see the lettering now here. And what Hassan did is he came up with a handwritten font, and then he came up with these lovely little tails. So they're not really bubbles. They're just sort of like ghostly kind of marks with these beautiful kind of hand drawn tails. And it's exactly the kind of thing I would want to do but I couldn't. Fraser's script was so much more wordy than mine, and I couldn't figure out a way to implement all the dialogue over something that I'd spent ages drawing and be like,
Yeah.
you made me draw a cabin of people, and now you want me to put this whole speech over the top of it. And I was like, we have to get a letterer who's like, because I can't do it. So we got Hassan in, and he just absolutely nailed it. So yeah, it was really lovely to do. And what letterers do, which I didn't realise, is they will often then put the book together ready for print. So Hassan got he did this PDF, he sent the files off to the printer, whereas I've had to do all of that in the past. So it was amazing to like pass on to someone else and be like, oh, I'm done here.
Yeah, you just go, oh, done.
I'm done. And then Fraser ran the Kickstarter, so I didn't have to do any of that. I just sort of helped with the promo, and it was great. We got like nearly 800 backers on Kickstarter and funded in like just over an hour. It was amazing. You know, we had such great.
That's so good. That's so good.
It was brilliant. Yeah, I think because we'd both done a lot of Kickstarter. Well, I'd done the Unbound. Fraser had done a lot of Kickstarters. Yeah. This was like his 9th or something. I think we brought a lot of people together and then a lot of goodwill. And yeah, it was amazing. We got really lucky with the response to it. And it was fun to do, even though it's quite a bleak story, but it's kind of a nice.
That's often the way, yeah, I know what you mean. So sometimes it needs to be more depressing than it is drawing something bleak or horrible.
I mean, I think for Fraser, it's quite a light story because his stuff is quite gruesome most of the time. So this is quite light for him. But it's about a girl, Meredith, who wakes up one morning to find out she has this like pink circle stamped on her eye, and it means she's been indexed, and that means she's an outcast. She's not allowed to. She has to leave her home. She's not allowed money, and she's not allowed to touch anyone ever again. She could kill someone if she touches them. So she's just like a teenager who's suddenly kicked out and on her own. And she decides she's not going to have that. So she goes into the big city to find out why it's happened and who's responsible. It's a great little one shot. It was really fun.
Oh, it's good. It's very Black Mirror.
Yes.
It would fit in.
Yeah, it has got a Black Mirror vibe to it, actually. That's a really good point. It was fun because we sort of like hinting to the fact there's been this, we keep calling it a lo-fi sci-fi, kind of hinting to the fact there's been this kind of apocalyptic thing that had happened, and he wrote it pre-pandemic. We were coming up with all this stuff like, oh, what has happened? Maybe it's a dust thing. And then the pandemic hit, and I had them originally. They've always got collars up, and they were covering their faces, and we're like, oh god, it just can't. Are we gonna write a pandemic thing in a pandemic? And he's like, well, it's written. Everyone was like, oh, he was so on it, and you're like, no, it was already done. You know. It's just, we knew that humanity was going that way, you know. But I thought it was more climate change thing at the time, but yeah, never mind. It got very COVID-y in the end, like everyone.
Excellent. Thank you, Lucy. That was so insightful. I can't believe that
I know we've torn through it.
Time has just gone like that, hasn't it?
Oh my
God,
incredible. The time.
Yeah. That is crazy.
I had no idea.
Sorry.
Wow.
No, that's fine. But you know what that means,
it's
Lucy, is
great.
that if we want to cover some more, you're going to have to come back. So
tough
luck, really, isn't it?
Delighted to.
I'm just having a look, see if there's anything in the chat room that we should ask you before you go. Mainly is Gareth making font puns. And I've threatened him twice and still he's doing it. But there you go. Lucy, it's been an absolute delight. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Really interesting.
Yeah, thank you. It's been absolutely fascinating. Really nice stuff.
Appreciate it.
I mean, I'm from outside the industry, and you know, I found it incredible. If David also found it interesting, and he's part of the industry, then you know, just testament to you. One last thing about your teaching. I can't let you go without talking about your teaching. How did you get into that? As a teacher myself, it's always interesting to find out how people get into that. I
got hired straight off the back of my degree. I was a little bit older when I did it, but to teach life drawing, because that was my speciality.
Okay.
So I was teaching evening life drawing, and my degree was illustration and animation. And then I sort of became everyone needed a life drawing teacher for animators, and I became that person. I was like the only person who could animate and teach life drawing. And then I now go back and teach comics, so that's wonderful. And excellent. Storyboarding, actually, David. So yeah, it's just really lovely.
Brilliant. So we've already spoken about some of where we can find you, but here's some more. Now, Mastodon I'd never heard of until this week, I've got to admit. But you are on Mastodon, and that last one is Hive as well.
Yep.
But you can also be found on, as we spoke about before, you're on, if you're watching this on YouTube, you wouldn't have caught this, but before the show, we were talking about
Blue Sky.
Blue Sky.
Yeah.
We're talking about Blue Sky and how good that is, especially for creatives. So you should go and find Lucy Sullivan there. Excellent. Thank you ever so much, Lucy. Brilliant stuff.
Thanks for having me.
All
Cheers.
right.
Thanks
Well, you're going to
for
have to come back, aren't you?
Will do.
Thanks, Lucy.
Bye.
And for those still with us, Behance, don't forget we're going to speak to Lucy very briefly again in just a few minutes. There we go, David. Number 3 in the can.
Done. That was really good.
It was, wasn't it?
I'm just fast. I actually forgot we were presenting something. To be honest, I completely. I was just listening and talking.
I couldn't
So
because I had to keep
apologies to
making
people
things
in the
bigger and
chat.
smaller. It was brilliant. But I know for next time.
No, I will apologise to people in the chat because normally I'm quite on the ball with like reading comments out and stuff, and I completely just was absorbed in like process
That's the hard
discussion.
part, isn't it? Just listening intently and forget that there's other people around.